A very warm and pleasant evening to all our attendees, esteemed faculty, researchers, colleagues, dear students, and friends who have joined us. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to day 3 of the 1-week International Faculty Development Program on Curriculum Development, Research, and Publication Ethics, organized by the Department of English and Other Foreign Languages, SRM Institute of Science and Technology, Ramapuram Campus, Chennai. 2 live sessions received positively by over 2,500 viewers in the last 2 days, respectively, have brought us confidently and with much eagerness to what I believe is going to be yet another informative and insightful session. We are happy to say that with almost 3,000 registrations for this program, SRMIST Ramapuram is honored to have had professors and researchers from almost 15 plus states across the country and several countries abroad who have shared their positive feedback with us in the last 2 days. We hope that you will continue to support us and motivate us today and in the coming days as well. And we thank you for the same. Today we are broadcasting a webinar on current trends in research writing and research methodology by Dr. Nila, Research Guide and Associate Professor, Postgraduate Department of English and Research Center for Comparative Studies, Mercy College, Kerala. This is going to be a very significant lecture, especially for those currently pursuing their PhD or for those who are planning to pursue PhD in the various higher educational institutions. So I kindly advise you to please stay tuned. And as usual, I would like to remind the participants to post your queries, if any, in the live chat stream on YouTube during the Q&A session alone. Otherwise, your questions get lost in the chat stream. So please post them at the end of the presentation and stay with us till the end. I would now like to request Dr. Rama, Professor and Head Department of English and Other Foreign Languages, to deliver the welcome address. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Walter. Warm greetings and hearty welcome to all the attendees. On behalf of the Department of English and Other Foreign Languages, SRM Institute of Science and Technology, Ramapuram, I extend my greetings and welcome to all of you on day 3 of the 1-week FDP on Curriculum Development, Research and Publication Ethics. Thank you, participants. Your lively interaction and feedback is motivating us to do more programs which would benefit the researchers and faculty members. Day 1, we had Dr. Samaravira from Sri Lanka, who made a very lucid presentation on improving research visibility. And on the second day, we had an exhaustive presentation on the nuances of writing quality research papers by Dr. Prashant Mote, Editor-in-Chief of Langlet. I thank both of them immensely, and I take this wonderful opportunity to welcome the speaker of today, Dr. Nila, a Senior Research Supervisor and Associate Professor at Mercy College, Palakkad, Kerala. With the recent launch of the 9th edition of MLA and constant revisions in the research methodologies in the academic world, I think we need to keep ourselves updated. Dr. Nila will share her insights on current trends in research writing and research methodology. Hearty welcome, ma'am. My heartfelt gratitude to you for your kind consent to spearhead the talk today. Thank you, and welcome once again. May I now invite my colleague, Dr. Savitha, to present the resource person to the audience. Over to you, Savitha.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. It is a great honor to introduce our guest speaker, Dr. Nila, working as Associate Professor of English and Research Guide in the Postgraduate Department of English and Research Center for Comparative Studies, Mercy College, affiliated to the University of Calicut. She holds her PhD from Bharatiyar University, Tamil Nadu, She served as Cambridge Assessment English Test Examiner, and presently her career has taken her through teaching and research for more than 19 years. Her areas of research interest are cultural studies, literary theories, ELT, ESP, research methodology, gender studies, femininities, and she is also delivering series of academic lectures on these areas. She is guiding research scholars and has been a resource person in faculty development programs, workshops, chaired sessions in international and national seminars and conferences, plenary talks on the diverse topics on research methodology and research writing, contemporary criticism, a highlight on the features of transitional feminism. We are indeed grateful to have you amidst us today, and I welcome you, ma'am, to take over the session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. A very good evening to one and all of you who have gathered in front of your electronic gadgets today because of COVID-19 pandemic spreading. Respected convener, Dr. V. Rema, organizers, Dr. S. Savitha, Dr. Walter Hugh Parker, coordinators, Dr. Nagamani and Miss Pritha Basu, other faculty members involved in organizing this seminar today, and all the participants. It gives me great pleasure to join SRM Institute of Science and Technology on this day when they are conducting an international faculty development program, especially on curriculum development, research, and publication ethics. I congratulate the department for conducting a faculty development program on such a topic that is the need of the hour. There is research going on everywhere, but research ethics is the need of the hour. So before I waste time, let us move on to my presentation, wherein I'm going to handle what is current, especially based on the MLA 9th edition. You must all be aware that current trends in research writing and research methodology has to be followed if your PhD thesis or MPhil thesis needs value, as they say, news value in journalism, research value. So let's move on. I think Professor Nagamani is helping me with the presentation.
Yes, ma'am, it is shared. You can proceed.
Can I? So every
Yes.
time I move on, I will say next slide. So maybe the person who listens can help me.
Yes, ma'am, that would be perfect.
Okay, thank you very much. So I begin as if I am talking to a group of people who are in the first year of their research. Many a time, your guide is in one college, you are in another college. Perhaps you're working. Even if you are a full-time research scholar, it is not possible for you to spend hours and hours with your guide because she may be having many wards like you. So I pray this presentation today helps you to solve a few basic problems you may be facing when you do research. And of course, it goes like this from the beginning of your thesis to the end where you have the work cited. So that is why I decided to prepare on MLA Handbook 9, which I have rightly documented at the end of my presentation, cited it so that it doesn't look as if I'm picking things from somebody else's source. So I am using this to help researchers learn and apply MLA Handbook style ethics to your writing. This will be useful for those who are doing research in English literature. So what is a research paper? It could be a paper, it could be a project, it could be a thesis. For all these, this presentation would do to help you understand what is a good research paper. You understand that professors and researchers should publish only in care-listed journals. The next option is Scopus or some reputed international journal. So how do you get selected? A substantial piece of academic writing, usually done as a requirement for a class. Your professor can ask you to submit a project in which the author does independent research into a topic and writes a description of the findings of that research. So you go ahead, you do research and you find something and you put it down. A formal written report that includes research findings and a student's own ideas. Research papers are all about organizing your ideas in a linear, understandable format. Sometimes it would be just two basic ideas, but putting them in and presenting them well is very important for a good research paper. There may be many times when you send a research paper to a care-listed journal and they sent it back to you asking to rewrite it, and maybe it got selected after you rewrote it for the third time. A research paper is a report summarizing the answers to the research questions you generated from the sources you gathered information from, then presenting the work in research paper format. So both are important. You read the source, you have a research problem, and you have an argument, and you bring both together on your paper, and you present it according to research paper format. You may be intelligent, you may be a genius, but then you have to follow the MLA 9th edition format if you have your paper has to be accepted. The next slide, please. How to start? Choose a topic which interests and challenges you. Many of you may go to your guide asking, what should I do? That shouldn't be the case. You must have read up before you meet your guide. For a year, you must have read up and you should know what your area is. Are you interested in children's literature? Or are you interested in feminism? Or is it environmental studies or ecology? Or is it anthropocentrism? You should have a basic idea about what you like. And if you haven't read at least 10 books or 15 books in the area that you like, it doesn't mean that you are a promising researcher. So never go to your guide saying, I do not know what to do. You could suggest. Of course, they will suggest. They will help you. But I'm talking about the spirit of research. So you have to find a topic that challenges you. Your attitude towards the topic may well determine the amount of effort and enthusiasm you put into your research. Only if you like your topic, you will show enthusiasm. Focus on a limited aspect. Narrow it down from religion. Suppose you're doing on theology, from religion to world religion to Buddhism. So you come down to one particular topic. Select a subject you may manage. Avoid subjects that are too technical. Learned or specialized. Suppose it's something deep into music and you do not know classical or Western music. Do not touch it. Avoid topics that have only a very narrow range of source materials. So if you don't have enough materials, it's very difficult to continue research. You should have enough material to work upon. So first find out if your topic has enough secondary material. Suppose a book was published last month, you wouldn't have much material on it. You must create material. So if you select topics that do not have enough material, as a beginner, you would suffer. So it's good to select topics which have material on which you could read and work upon. Next slide, please. How to search for information. Surf the net. So how will I know? Do I go to my library just like that and select a book? Surf the net. Pay attention to domain name extensions like edu, government, org, as these tend to be more reliable. Be selective of .com sites. Learn how to evaluate sites critically and to search effectively on the internet. You must learn it's very user-friendly. Very soon you will know which is authentic and which is not. Check out print material at the library. Almanacs, atlases, encyclopedias, guides, reports, government publications. Read and evaluate. bookmark, print out, photocopy, and take notes of relevant information. So you have to keep working on it. You can't keep something in mind and keep walking about when you begin research. So you have to be documenting right from the beginning. You like something, photocopy it with the permission of the librarian immediately. Next slide, please. Make cards. Those who are doing research in the 21st century, or maybe in the last 5 years or 10 years, you wouldn't understand what I mean by making cards. This was a system which our guides were very strict about, and it really helped me. I insist that all my wards under me make cards. Even if you speak to any of my wards, they will say that their guide insists upon keeping or making cards. So making cards is very important so that you don't waste time. As you gather your resources, jot down full bibliographical information. A card is made according to the size of your handwriting, but now you can make electronic cards too. So in case it is a written card, it can be just the size of a postcard or the size of this book, for example. Just this size, so that you have enough space to write here, copy what you want here, ditto from the source. And on the back, you have to write all the resource information you get about the book. I have jotted it down on your slide. The author's name, title, place of publication, publisher, date of publication, page numbers, URLs, creation or modification, dates on web pages, and your date of access on worksheet. Print out or enter the information on your computer. Remember that an article without bibliographical information is useless since you cannot cite its source. Many a time when you ask your UG students or MA students to write a project, they come up with a lot of quotations inside the project without parenthetical documentation. Or sometimes it has no citation. So you will know when you are an MPhil researcher or a PhD researcher that you cannot copy somebody else's matter. So that is absolute plagiarism. So you have to cite whatever you take from other books. So for that, card system helps. So you have card system, you write everything that you want to quote on one side, ditto, even the punctuation and for alphabetic, arrangement should be copied, and on the back, what I have written on this slide, so that it's easy to cite it. Your work cited can be just finished off in 2-3 days instead of sitting and going and working on it for hours and days. Next slide. Career guidance. Suppose you need more information. There you have Finding the Right Career, ONET, Occupational Outlook Handbook, Career Guide to Industries, Employment Projections, Best Careers. Since you are beginners, I understand that from 2020 onwards, a doctorate is necessary to get into a teaching course. I do not know who all are listening to this presentation, but anybody is welcome to do research. So if you have options and you want to know what you can do, you can just go to these sites and find out what all options are available. Teaching alone is not an option. You have researching too. There are many universities where teachers do their job separately and researchers do their job separately. That is why I included this slide. I believe you must have noted down. Next slide. State your thesis. Do some critical thinking and write your thesis statement down in one sentence. What are you planning to do? I am planning to analyze individualist feminism in Fire on the Mountain by Anita. So how will I go about? That's one statement. Okay, you have decided I'm going for feminism, or I'm going to do ecology, ecofeminism in the same book, or I'm going to talk about subaltern consciousness in The White Tiger. That is one statement. Your thesis statement is like a declaration of your belief. I believe there is subaltern consciousness, and I believe the subaltern should voice out their feelings. And that is what I see in The White Tiger. So you have decided this is what your research problem is, and you're going to analyze it. The main portion of your essay will consist of arguments to support and defend your belief. So you have to see that you read up from the secondary sources and you support and bolster your idea by using all the sources and citing them properly. Next slide. Okay, so you have decided what your topic is, you have browsed, you have surfed the net, and you have a thesis statement in your hands. What next? The purpose of an outline is to help you think through your topic carefully and organize it logically before you start writing. So, how will I start? Now, I have decided there is ecofeminism, or for example, there is The Voice of the Subaltern in The White Tiger by Aravind Adiga. Now, where do I begin? It logically helps you write the thesis if you have an outline. So then you include an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. The introduction, you share your thesis and purpose clearly. What is the chief reason for the paper? Explain briefly the major points and why readers should be interested in your topic. So that's what the introduction is going to be about. And the body, present your arguments to support your thesis statement. Remember the rule of 3. Find 3 supporting arguments for each position. Suppose you say, I begin with feminism, and I say there is inequality. So there should be 3 to support that feeling. Then I say there is patriarchy in the society. Then 3 supporting statements. Then I say there is discrimination. 3 supporting statements. So if you start off like that, it takes its own form. And the conclusion, restate your thesis, summarize your arguments, and explain why you have come to this particular conclusion. Suppose I say there should be individualist feminism, and the protagonist in The Fire on the Mountain is an individual feminist. How do I explain? She wants to go alone. She decides to retire from the family. How can there be normal society may question, how can a grandmother ever retire? She wants to go off to the Himalayas and live peacefully from keeping herself away from everything and becoming an unconventional grandmother. So that shows she's an individual feminist. But what happens after that? She gets a letter from her daughter saying that her daughter was going for the delivery of her daughter in America, and she was sending Raka, the great-granddaughter, back to her so that she keeps her and takes care of her for some time. So what happens to individualist feminism there? So how do you solve that problem? How do you justify this theory in the novel? So that is how the conclusion is going to work out. Next slide. Explain an outline. I have given you a picture of a simple topic. The screen is not very clear for me. I don't know if it will be clear for the others too, but I think you can see how I have divided the topic. It is on Shakespeare, and in the beginning, introduction, brief comment leading into subject and matter, the thesis statement on Shakespeare, body, Shakespeare's early life, marriage, works, later years. Then I have divided, you see, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, Shakespeare's family, Shakespeare's father, Shakespeare's mother. Then the second part is Shakespeare's marriage, life of Anna Hathaway, reference in Shakespeare's poems. Then comes the second subject, Shakespeare's works. And under Shakespeare's works, part 1, its plays. And I divided into tragedies, Hamlet, Romeo and Juliet, The Tempest, and it moves on. King Lear should come there unknowingly. Much ado about nothing has come here. Anyway, and then the histories, subject 2 or subheading 2, histories, King John, Richard II, Henry VIII. And then subheading 3, sonnets, subheading 4, other poems. So the main idea of Shakespeare has been broken up into 3 parts. One is his biography, another his works, and then it moves on to his poems, dramas, and then poems. Next slide, please. This is a basic idea of how you can break one big topic. Then you have Shakespeare's later years, last 2 plays, retired to Stratford, death, burial, epitaph on his tombstone, conclusion, analytical summary of all that happened in his life and works, Shakespeare's early life, Shakespeare's work, Shakespeare's later years, all summed up here, thesis reworded, concluding statement in the end. So this is one basic idea. I have taken one simple name. Can't call William Shakespeare simple, but since everybody will know him, nobody in the world would be there without knowing William Shakespeare. And in case you're writing, how you would break, your analysis about Shakespeare. Next slide, please. Organize. So if this is how your outline is going to be of your topic, it could be, Marxism, it could be feminism, it could be ecology. Then you start organizing. Organize, analyze, synthesize, sort, and digest the information gathered to effectively communicate your thoughts, ideas, insights, and research finding to others. So it's not enough if you gather. You have to effectively communicate. That's where your style guide helps you. This is the most important stage in writing a research paper. Include only relevant and understandable information. Make sure you have used your own words and has been carefully noted. Document all ideas borrowed or quotes used to avoid plagiarism. Jot down detailed bibliographical information and see that it's ready for your works cited page. It helps you make your works cited page. So that is how organizing works. Next slide. Okay, now you have browsed, you have arrived at a topic, you have created a thesis statement, a thesis problem, an argument. You have decided that this is the theory you're going to work upon, and you have created an outline. Whenever my wards submit chapters to me when they do their research, PhD wards, I ask them to always submit a chapter map along with their chapter. So then the chapter map should be there in front of the chapter, so that they themselves have an idea about how they have outlined their chapter. So the beginning is this. This is the theory I have applied. These are the features of the theory as given by the theorist, and this is how I have applied the features to my novel or poem or drama or cartoon or movie or music. So that is how it works. So then after arriving at the outline, now you start writing. It rolls on from the main chapter. You write the introduction at the end because you do not know how your thesis is going to take shape as you write. So as you write, you follow the MLA handbook style. And today I have taken down all necessary important facts. I cannot bring the entire MLA handbook on a presentation. So I have taken all that a researcher has doubts about. So my students come with a lot of doubts. So I keep those in mind and then I explain. And I have kept those in mind when I prepared this PowerPoint. MLA stands for Modern Language Association, and it is the standard format for research and term papers. If you are asked to use MLA format, be sure to consult the MLA handbook for writers of research papers. I have written 8th year, it's 9th edition. Today's presentation is 9th edition. Next slide. This is how the 9th edition's cover page looks. There you can clearly see MLA handbook 9th edition. Next slide. Do not make a title page for your paper unless specifically requested. This is for your research paper. I start with paper. You can apply these rules differently. For thesis, you have to have a title page. For a research paper, you don't need unless they insist. In the upper left-hand corner of the first page, list your name, your instructor's name, the course and the date. Again, be sure to use double-space text. There is double spacing throughout your research paper. Double space again and center the title. Do not underline, italicize, or place your title in quotation marks. Write the title in title case, means standard capitalization, not in all capital letters. So this is how your title should be typed. Next slide. Type your paper on a computer. Gone are the days when you write a paper. You have to type it out. So a laptop becomes a must, or a computer, access to a computer becomes must in the coming days. Print it out on standard white 8.5 into 11-inch paper. That is your A4 sheet. Double space the text of your paper and use a legible font. Example, Times New Roman. Generally, they themselves tell you what font they want. The font size should be 12. Leave only one space after periods or other punctuation marks unless otherwise instructed by your instructor. I have put this clearly in this slide because most often students who do research, whether they are doing MPhil or MA project or PhD, they always do things as they like. It is clearly mentioned in the MLA handbook. Always listen to your instructor. The reason is, now in my life, I would have valued at least a dozen PhD dissertations, and I have sat as open defense examiner. I can clearly see dissertations which have followed the instructor's instructions clearly and the ones who have just waywardly done whatever they wanted. So if you follow the instructor's instruction, you see today I am explaining MLA 9th edition to you. So wouldn't it be by heart to me? So as soon as I see a PhD thesis, I can clearly find out the mistakes because that's my job. I keep going on, going through so many papers, research papers. So that will be by heart to your instructor. So she can easily tell you what is right or what is wrong. So if you follow her, it will be easy to get your paper published in a care listed or a good journal. If you do not know, you can always ask him or her. They would be ready to give you. They would be very interested also to give you the right information. Never stay away from your instructor. They are the best sources of information. Next slide, please. Set the margins of your document to 1 inch on all sides. But on the left, though this is how it is written in the MLA handbook, on the left you should have common sense enough to leave a ½ inch extra for the sake of binding. So after binding, when we open your thesis, there should be 1 inch on all 4 sides. Indent the first line of paragraphs 1/2 inch from the left margin. It could also be 1 tab. MLA recommends that you use the tab key as opposed to pushing the space bar 5 times. So since technology is growing, they are making it easier for you. Next slide. That is a sample paper. It doesn't need to be read, but you can see how it is. You can see that this is a research paper. So the person's name and address is on the left. Further on the top, on the right, along with the page number, you can see the surname of the writer too. And then you can see on all 4 sides, there's 1 inch left clearly. And the right side is not justified. In a research paper, you need not justify the right side because if you justify, some words will be divided for the sake of making the paper look beautiful. The words will be divided and will confuse the readers. That is why you need not justify the right margin. Next slide. Can you please reduce the size? Yes. Thank you very much. An epigraph is a short quotation at the beginning of a work that establishes its theme or mood, and they should be used sparingly. So many a time when you start your project, many of you would like an epigraph, a small quotation or a small poem. It can be done, but don't use it wherever you want. In every page, you can't use it. Primarily ornamental epigraphs are not discussed subsequently in the text. You just begin the mood off with that, but you don't discuss it. You need not even, give a parenthetical documentation for it. Do not place an epigraph in quotation marks. On a line below the epigraph, generally provide only the author and the title of the work the epigraph comes from. No further documentation is needed, and the work is not included in works cited list. You need not even include it because you're just setting the mood. You can include the author's name because somebody has written it. Look at the example I've given you. All these beauties will already be familiar to the visitor who has seen them also in other cities. So it is by Italo Calvino from Invisible City. So that is enough there. It need not even be put in brackets, just a hyphen and the name of the author. That's why I said no need of parenthetical documentation, just the name of the author and the place it came from. It need not be cited because you're just setting the ball on the roll. Next slide. Use quotation marks or italics when referring to other books in your title, just as you would in your text. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas as morality play. Human weariness in After Apple Picking. So that is how you use your italics. I have shown both. There is the name of the book in italics and the name of the work in double quotes. You see, after apple picking is the name of the work, so it's in double quotes. Double space between the title and the first line of the text. Next slide. Create a header in the upper right hand corner that includes your last name. That's why I said surname, followed by a space with a page number. Now, suppose my name is seen as Nila Eknath. So, on my thesis, you can see Eknath 1, Eknath 2, Eknath 3, Eknath 4. It goes on like that. By a space with a page number, number all pages consecutively with Arabic numerals 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. 1/2 inch from the top and flush with the right margin. Note, your instructor or other readers may ask that you, I cannot see, yes, that you omit the last name or page number header on your first page. Always follow the instructor's guidelines. So sometimes the instructor may say, don't put the page number on the first page. So you have to follow the instructor then. Pagination. Create a header in the upper right hand corner that includes the last name. That's what we read now. Okay, next slide, please. Works cited. Begin your works cited page on a separate page at the end of your research paper. It should have the same 1-inch margins and page number header as the rest of your paper. Label the page works cited. Do not italicize the words works cited or put them in quotation marks, and center the words works cited at the top of your page. So works cited should be on the center. Don't write it in all capitals. Next slide. Double space all citations. Previous slide, I think. Yes. Double space all citations, but do not skip spaces between entries. You can double space it and continue. Now, suppose you have read 200 books. You need not leave a space between each entry. You can continue, but there should be double space. Indent the second and subsequent lines of citations, 5 spaces so that you create a hanging indent. List page numbers of sources efficiently when needed. If you refer to a journal article that appeared on pages 225 through 250, list the page numbers on your works cited pages 225 to 50. That's how you show on works cited page. Next slide. Individuals resources. So we move on to how you cite. Most of my students get stuck only with works cited, and I have to edit it. Sometimes ask them to go refer to the MLA properly. In spite of referring to MLA, they come back with doubts. So contributors is name, title of resource, the Purdue Owl. Purdue Owl, all of you must be knowing as researchers, is the online handbook for your citation and style guide. Purdue U Writing Lab, last edited date, web, date of access. This is how you have to cite an electronic book. Now, I have given an example below. Russell Tony, Alan Breezy, and Elizabeth Angeli. MLA Formatting and Style Guide. The Purdue Owl. So that is the app or main source I get it from. So that is in italics. Purdue U Writing Lab, the publisher. And 4th April 2010, publishing date. Web access when I got 20 July 2010. So both dates are here. Next slide. How to cite Purdue Owl in MLA. This is an online source. So then the whole thing is in italics. Entire website, the Purdue OWL. And then Purdue U Writing Lab, 2010, date of access. According to MLA 9th edition, date of access would do. I think 8th edition also said that. Earlier, you had to also write the date of publication. Next slide, please. Book with one author. There you have Glake James, Chaos Making a New Science. That's the name of the book in italics. Publisher, New York, Penguin, 1987. You have where it got published and the publisher. If you don't have a place, you can just include the name of the publisher. There is no need to show the place nowadays because it could be published in any place. Next slide. Book with more than one author. The first given name appears in last name, first name format. So first you write the last name and then the first name. Now William Shakespeare comes as Shakespeare, William. So It comes in that format, last name and then first name format. Subsequent author names appear in first name, last name format. So then after that, you can continue in first name, last name format. Example, Gillespie Paula and Neil Lerner. There you don't say Lerner Neil. The second name can be written just as it is, Neil Lerner. And the book is The Allen and Bacon Guide to Peer Tutoring. Boston, Allen, 2000. Published in 2000. Next slide. Pseudonyms. Another technique is to add information to entries in square brackets. For example, when citing a single work by an author published under a less widely known pseudonym, you can list the entry under the pseudonym found on the work and annotate the entry using square brackets in the author element after the pseudonym. There you have Bashman, Richard, and Stephen King. If they are not very famous, you can put it in brackets, the name. The Long Walk, Cited, 1979. Clark, N.W., C.S. Lewis, his name is also put in square brackets. Grief Observed, Faber and Faber, 1961. So, if the pseudonym is less widely known, you can always enter the name after the pseudonym. Next slide. Online handle. If an author's online handle differs from the author's account name, it may be helpful to supply the handle in square brackets after the name. So you take it from Instagram or somewhere else. So then you give the name properly, Fogarty, Mignon, and then you give the online handle in square brackets at Grammar Girl. Every once in a while, that Gmail notice asking if you meant to reply to a 5-day-old message is quite helpful. So the titles, articles, or name is in double quotes. And then you have Twitter, the engine or the platform in which you took it from. That's why I have shown it in red. 13 February 2019 and the URL. Next slide. Organizations, groups, and government authors. Initial articles A and the should be omitted in works cited list entry. Now you see the Beatles. You don't need the. Revolver is the main work. And then EMI records, the source, 1966. The next one is another example. Beatles, the. So the Beatles, you follow it as if you write William Shakespeare, Shakespeare William. It's not necessary. Revolver, EMI records, 1966. Both are incorrect. What is correct? Beatles. You need not say the. Beatles dot work, Revolver in italics. Publication, EMI records, and the day, year it got published, 1966. Next slide. Works with more than one container. Now, sometimes books are available in print form, in ebook form, sometimes in digital libraries. So how do you cite? A container can be, these are terms in MLA Handbook 9. They use the term container. A container can be contained by another container. For example, an essay can appear in a print book and that book can be digitized on website. In this case, both the book and the website are containers. The book contains the essay and the website contains the book. So Tone, Penny Van, and Daniel Justice, Aboriginal Writing, the Cambridge Companion to Canadian Literature. You took it from there, edited by Eva Marie Crawler. And again, you got it digitally too, Cambridge UP 2017, pages 26 to 58. And again, Cambridge Core, that must be the place, digital space you took it from with the URL. So you cite both the book and the URL of the source from which you took it from, electronic source you took it from. Next slide. A translated book. Cite as you would any other book, add translated by and follow with the names of the translator or translators. Now, Foucault, Michel. Madness and Civilization, A History of Insanity in the Age of Reason. And immediately after the title, everything comes after the title. Translated by Richard Howard, New York, Vintage Random House, Publishers, 1988. So this is how you cite a translated book. Next slide. Republished book. Books may be republished due to popularity without becoming a new edition. New editions are typically revisions of the original work. For books that originally appeared at an earlier date and that have been republished at a later one, insert the original publication date before the publication information. For books that are new editions, that is different from the first or other editions of the book, see an edition of a book below. Butler, Judith. So Judith Butler's book, Butler Judith, Gender Trouble. So 1990 was its first edition, New York. The publisher, Routledge, and your book is 1999, the next edition, the edition from which you took the lines. So you show both. Next line. An edition of a book. There are two types of editions in book publishing. A book that has been published more than once in different editions, and a book that is prepared by someone other than the author, typically an editor. A subsequent edition. Cite the book as you normally would, but add the number of the edition after the title. Now, suppose there are many editions of the same book, just add the number of the edition. Example, Crowley Sharon and Deborah Hohe, Ancient Rhetorics for Contemporary Students, third edition, third time it's been edited. New York, Pearson Longman, 2004. Next slide. A work prepared by an editor. In the previous slide, you saw a book that has many editions. Now, this is how you cite a work prepared by an editor. Cite the book as you normally would, but add the editor after the title. There you have Bronze Charlotte, Jane Eyre, edited by Margaret Smith, Oxford, UP, 1998. So, just like you saw translated by, after the title of the book, you write edited by. Next slide. There, I have given you an example. I've taken this photo from MLA 9th edition. An example of how you can cite a book or when it comes from two sources. You see the author's name, Edgar Allan Poe, Edgar Allan, and the title of the work, and then the title of the container. So this is an edition. So it's edited by James Harrison. And then fourth volume, and the publisher's name is given, publication date is given, location is also given because it's a printed book. But it also has an ebook. That's why the second container, container 2, you saw, title of the container is given and the URL also will be given. So this is how your card system will help you. In your card, there you see location, the URL is given below. When you want to quote something and you have taken a line from the book, and there is an electronic version also, you can write both these details behind your card, and when you cite it after you finish your thesis, include all these details. So it's very easy for anybody to go and search for material. Next slide. Anthology or collection. So how would you cite when you take a poem or an essay from an anthology? To cite the entire anthology or collection, list by editors followed by a comma and ed, or for multiple editors, eds for edited by. This sort of entry is somewhat rare. If you are citing a particular piece within an anthology or collection, more common, see a work in an anthology reference or collection below. There I have given you an example. Hill, Charles A. and Margaret Helmers, editors. So both of them are editors. Defining Visual Rhetorics, Moha, Lawrence, Earlbaum Associates, 2004. So this is how you show when you take a work from an anthology. Peterson Nancy J, editor, that has only one editor. Toni Morrison, Critical Theoretical Approaches, Baltimore, Johns Hopkins, UP, 1997. So you got an example of editions of a book. You got an example of a book that is edited by somebody. Now, this is an example of an anthology. When it is an anthology, the term editor comes immediately after the author of the book or the editor of the book. He or she doesn't become an author. He or she becomes an editor of the anthology. Next slide. A work in an anthology. There, one more example. Last name, first name, that I have explained it in words. Title of the essay, title of collection, editor's name, city of publication, publisher, year, page, range of entry. This is the same example which I gave earlier when a book is edited by somebody. We can move on to the next slide. Director of a movie. Now, many of you must be doing, one of my own wards is doing it on movies. So, how would you cite the movie? So, an example, Point of No Return, directed by, name of the movie in italics, immediately directed by John Badham, Warner Bros. And 1993, the banner under which the film comes. Next slide. Mention the role of the contributor. So you saw many contributors now, translated by, edited by, directed by. So now as research moves on, our times, I think in the 90s, we didn't have much of the computer. But now everything is digital. You have research done on movies, research done on cartoons, research done on music and poetry. My research was on music and poetry. So I had to have the Western music notes on one side and the poems on one side. So how do you see who the contributor is and how do you give him the rightful, documentation, cite him or her? So you have to see that. You include the contributor's name and mention the role. What was his role? Adapted by, choreographed by, it could be dance, conducted by, created by, directed by, edited by, illustrated by, introduction by, narrated by, performance by, translated by. I have given an example below there, you see. Othello, directed by Stuart Burge, and you see Japanese subtitles by. So he also is a contributor. Somebody has worked on that and given subtitles. So Shunji Shimizu, BHE Films, 1965. So all contributors are given their due. Next slide. Article in a reference book. Example, encyclopedias, dictionaries. For entries in encyclopedias, dictionaries, and other reference works, cite the piece as you would any other work in a collection, but do not include the publisher information because it is very clear. So, ideology, you took something from the encyclopedia or dictionary. The American Heritage Dictionary, 3rd edition, 1997, because there would be around 50 or 60 people sitting together to compile the dictionary. So you can't give the editors or compilers name, all their names. So you just give the source, the American Heritage Dictionary, but you give the edition and the publication year. Next slide. An introduction, preface, foreword, or afterword. When citing an introduction, a preface, a foreword, or an afterword, write the name of the authors of the piece you are citing. Then give the name of the part being cited, which should not be italicized or enclosed in quotation marks. In italics, provide the name of the work and the name of the author of the introduction, preface, foreword, afterword. Finish the citation with the details of publication, page, range, and item, all that's necessary. Example, you have the Farrell Thomas B. Immediately after that comes introduction. Then norms of rhetorical culture, whatever title is given in italics by Farrell, New Haven, Yale UP 1993, page number 1 to 13. So the book's name is, the authors of the book's name is given, but the introduction, since you took the matter from the introduction of the book, the person who wrote the introduction is more important. So his name comes first, Farrell Thomas B. And he has given the lines in the introduction. Next slide. Dissertations and master's thesis. Dissertations and master's thesis may be used as sources, whether published or not. Cite the work as you would a book, but include the designation dissertation after that, followed by the degree granting school and the year the degree was awarded. If the dissertation is published, italicize the title and include the publication date. You may also include the university, Microfilms International, order number if you choose. See the example? Bishop Karen Lynn, documenting institutional identity, strategic writing in the IUPUI comprehensive campaign. So that is the name of the dissertation. So immediately after that, you write dissertation. Purdue University, name of the university published, 2002, Ann Arbor, UMI 2004. So that is the extra information about the dissertation. Next slide, please. The institution conferring the degree and the type of thesis or dissertation, you see, BA, MA, PhD, are essential to defining the work and should appear as a final supplemental element. That's why I said extra information. The earlier one may not have been, the previous slide, I showed it may not have been a BA, MA, PhD project. That's why I included this slide. You see, induce Jesse, performing the passion, a study on the nature of medieval acting. So that's on Performance Arts, 2010. Northwestern U. So you have the name of the author, name of the dissertation in italics, and then the year and the publisher, Northwestern U, and the degree, PhD dissertation, you clearly mentioned. Next slide, please. Electronic citations. Now, all of you must be taking from websites, from ebooks. So how do you cite? author or editor's name, article's name in quotation marks. Titles of books are always in italics, but when you take an article, it becomes the title with italics. Title with quotations, double quotations. Title of the website project or book in italics. Remember that some print publications have web publications with slightly different names. They may, for example, include the additional information or otherwise modified information like domain names, example, com or net. Any version numbers available, including revisions, posting dates, volumes, or issue numbers should be mentioned. Publisher information, including the publisher's name and publishing date. Take note of any page numbers if available, medium of publication, date you access the material, URL. All these are must when you cite an electronic document. Next slide. Ebook. You have an example. Crystal David, that's the author, making a point. The Pernity story of English punctuation. Ebook edited. As soon as the title is over, you write ebook edited version. St. Martin's Press 2015. Next slide. Music or data. Sail Away Ladies. One Grain of Sand. Vanguard Records. 1 January 2006. Spotify app. So you have taken this music from a CD and the singer's name, the name of the song, and then the name of the album. So the name of the song is in double quotes, name of the album in italics, and then the publishers or the producers, Vanguard Records, the date on which it was published, and the app in which you took from. Sometimes you can take it from a CD, sometimes it can be from an app. So how do you post? Cite. Next slide. Timestamps. Suppose it's music and you took only 2 lines from the sung music, or you took a dialogue from a movie. You must remember to give the timestamp. For works in time-based media, such as audio and video recordings, cite the relevant time or time span if it is displayed. Give the numbers of the hours, minutes, and seconds as displayed in your media player, separating the numbers with colons with no space on either side. Citation. I give you an example. Buffy's promise that there is not going to be any incidents like at my old school. It's obviously not one that she can keep. So that is a dialogue. So then I give Buffy and look at the time span 00:03 and then a colon 16 to 17. That is how it could be from 316 to 317. Work cited Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Unad Pilot 1996. I took it from YouTube. Uploaded by Brainstove 28 Jan 2012. And then the URL. Here YouTube should be in italics. It's not in italics. Next slide. Okay, an image, painting, sculpture, photograph. Provide the artist's name, the work of art italicized, the date of creation, the institution and city where the work is housed. Example, Goya Francisco, the family of Charles IV, 1800. So you have the artist's name and the work of art, the family of Charles IV. That is italicized, you see. And the date of creation, it was painted in 1800. And the institution and city where it was found, Museo Racional del Prado, Madrid. And look at the next example. Cleve Paul, Twittering Machine, 1922. Museum of Modern Art, New York. It could be a sculpture here. It could be an item that is displayed. So 1912, the year and the place, Museum of Modern Art, New York. Next slide. A tweet. MLA posted guidelines on their website for how to cite a tweet on a works cited page. Begin with the user's name, last name, first name format, followed by his or her Twitter username. That's why I have put it in red color. First the original name, then the Twitter name in parentheses. Insert a period outside the parentheses. Next, place the tweet in its entirety in quotations, inserting a period after the tweet within the quotations. Include the date and time of posting. Using the reader's time zone, separate the date and time with a comma and end with a period. Look at the example. At Tom Brokaw, but here the name was not available, so it's not given, or you must give the original name also. SC, you see quotation marks begin. SC demonstrated why all the debates are the engines of this campaign, full stop. Then close quotes. And then the source, Twitter, then the date 22 January 2012, then the time span 3:06 a.m., then the URL twitter.com or the rest of the information with a full stop at the end. Next slide. Blog post, a listserv, discussion group, or blog posting, all these. Cite web postings as you would a standard web entry. Provide the author of the work, the title of the posting in quotation marks, the website name in italics. That's why I've shown you in different colors. All this is a must. Author, the title in quotation marks, website name in italics, the publisher, and the posting date. Follow with the medium of publication and the date of access. Include screen names as author names when author name is not known. That's what happened in the previous example I gave. If author name is not known, give the screen name. If both names are known, place the author's name in brackets. There you have Salma 1515, then the author's name in brackets. Best strategy, fenced pastures versus max number of rooms, question mark, close quotes. Then you have the rest of the information. Board Game Geek, that's where you took it from. 29 September 2008, the date it was published. And then the rest of the URL available and the date you took it from, accessed 5 April 2009. Next slide. Works without numbered pages or divisions. So suppose there are no numbers. Look at the example below. I go directly. Small changes in your eating habits can lower your risk for many of the diseases associated with aging. Parker Pope. So it's never too early to evaluate your diet. So that is in your thesis. You just give a parenthetical documentation using the name, no page number. Now in Works Cited, it goes like this. Parker Pope, Tara. How you age well, inside double quotes. Where did you take it from? The New York Times, 2nd November 2017, and the URL. It was online, so there's no page number. Next slide. There, I give you an example. Now, the MLA Handbook 9 is so user-friendly. That is why I wanted to show you this. You will have no doubts. You need not run to your guide every time. You need not go to the instructor every time. You have to just buy the book, keep it with you, and refer to it every time. Everything is shown clearly. Look at this slide. I have given the MLA Handbook has clearly given you an example on top. You see, Duros, Matthew R. et al. So many authors. The title of the article, US Department of Justice. So it's taken from a government department. September 2015, published on September 2015, and then you have the URL in blue color. Everything explained clearly. See, there are different side headings. Like flowcharts, it shows arrows, primary government agency. US Department of Justice is the primary agency. That is why when you cited it, you wrote US Department of Justice. Under that, you have the sub-agency, Office of Justice Programs, Bureau of Justice, sublimits. It's clearly given. Next slide. You have another example of how you have to find location. Suppose you do not know where it is. So you see location. It's clearly shown with an arrow mark. So you're talking about Transatlantic Bohemian Renaissance, 1890-1910. It's on modernism and modernity. It's by Johns Hopkins University Press, volume 23, number 1, January 2016, 37 to 63 page. And location is the number there. You see, it could have been taken from a digital library. Next slide, please. There. How to find the author's name and how to find the contributor's name. It's clearly given with arrow marks. How to cite is given on top of the slide. You see Flaubert Guster, Madame Bovary. That is the name of the book. Translated by Jeffrey Wall. Revered. Edited Penguin Books 2007. Publisher's name and the year. So you can see who translated. So he's the main contributor. But the author of the book is Guster. Next slide. There, how to find the publisher's name. Everything is given with pictures. So it's easy for you. When you open the book, there are so many things printed on the title page. So how to find the publication and original date. It is shown with an arrow mark. Next slide. There, how to find the number if it's online. See, this is taken from the MLA handbook only, not from the net, and they have taken it from an online, source, so that it is clear for you. You see, a laying on of hands, Toni Morrison, and the materiality of love, and then how to see the number. They have clearly enlarged it for you with an arrow mark. You can see the number. Next slide. Volume number. Look at this. Crystal David is the contributor making a point. The Pernickety Story of English Pronunciation. Ebook edited. St. Martin's Press 2015. So how will you cite an ebook and how will you take the numbers? You can clearly see from the example given in the book. Next slide. How to find the version. You see, unabridged version is clearly shown on the title page with an arrow mark. Next slide. There, how to find episode number if it is a serial or if it is a program. So there'll be first episode, second episode. It comes through season. So season 4, episode 3. You have to cite this when you take an example from something that is streamed regularly or comes in seasons, programs that come in seasons. Next slide. There, publication date. Suppose it's a newspaper. Hunter, Marjorie, and the title of the article, Johnson Anti-Poverty Bill Approved in House. Page 228 to 190, but forced bulk final vote, the New York Times. And then the publication date, you see, 8 August 1964. Next slide. How to get the publisher's name, Modernist Heresies. There you have publisher's name, the Ohio State University Press, Columbus. Next slide. There, how to get a publication date from an online source, more specific publication date. This is how sometimes you may go browse and never find a publication date. So you have to search in these places. It's clearly shown with an arrow mark. So there you find out there's a publication date and a more specific one on the right side. You see September 8, 2013, 15. Next slide. There may be relevant matters, there may be irrelevant elements which could be omitted in your card making. So here, for example, the author is Anne Goldman. The title of the source, the article is given, Questions of Transport Reading, Prime Level Reading, Dante. And then you have title of the container, the Georgia Review. You took it from a review. Contributor is not necessary, version is not necessary, but you have a number, volume 64, number 1. Publisher's name is not necessary, but publication date is given, spring 2010. Location 69 to 88. So some things can be irrelevant to you sometimes. Next slide. How to find the number. The History of Modern Criticism, 1715 to 1950 by Rene Wellek. And the later 18th century, number 1, it could go on to number 2, number 3. So you see for the number here, part of the title page lists the volume number. It may not be written VOLNUNO or NUMBER. You have to look at it and then find out the volume number. Next slide. There, this was an example of a song that is taken from a CD, which I have already shown you. I have already mentioned it. You must have seen Odetta, One Grain of Sand, Vanguard Recording Society, 1963, Vinyl. Vinyl means from a CD. The next one is from an app, which I already showed you, Spotify app. Same song taken from a CD and taken from an app. And the publication date you should look for on the CD clearly to find it. Next slide. There, this is from an app. So how to find the publication date on an app? Suppose you take it on your phone. You have the singer's name, you have the album's name, you have the particular song's name, you have the app's name, and you can see the publication date, January 1, 2006, which is very important when you cite it, when suppose you're doing research on music. Next slide. There, I cite the work which I took material from today because thanks to them, they made research writing very systematized and clear because of the hard work they put in to help us, write research papers very well. So MLA Handbook, 9th edition, ebook edited, Modern Language Association of America, 2021. This is how I cite the MLA Handbook from which I took material today to help you improve your research writing. Next slide. Okay. I started off from where you browse to find out what topic you are interested in. You move on to prepare your outline, your thesis statement, your thesis argument, your research problem. And then you decide to have the chapter divisions. You draw your chapter maps. And then you start writing. And when you write the chapters, you always remember to prepare your cards. And then when you prepare your cards, I showed you what are the important important information you should include in your cards so that documentation becomes easier. I touched upon the most important things that you need to look into when you prepare your work cited or you cite sources. Now what next? Checklist 1. Is my thesis statement concise and clear? Did I follow my outline? Did I miss anything? Towards the end, you should ask yourself, are my arguments presented in a logical sequence? Is there logic? Sometimes when I read, there would be no logic in the thesis. Are all sources properly cited to ensure that I am not plagiarizing? See, even if you take an idea from somebody else, it is his or her idea. Maybe you have paraphrased it, but you could always give him credit. Suppose you took an idea from your friend's dissertation. You could always give him or her credit in the work cited by citing the dissertation. Have I proved my thesis with strong supporting arguments? Have I made my intentions and points clear in the essay? So you have to have your checklist to find out if you are ready for your open defense. Only when your checklist is prepared, you can prepare for your open defense. It's called open defense because you are going to defend your thesis. You are going to speak for yourself. And you have to see that everybody's queries are answered. And nobody knows your dissertation more than you. Nobody knows the research more than you because you are the researcher. So this checklist preparation will help you to have a clear idea of your research. Next slide. After preparing the checklist, recheck. Reread your paper. Suppose it's a research article. Reread your paper for grammatical errors. Use a dictionary or a thesaurus as needed. Do a spell check and improve the overall quality of the paper to the best of your ability. Get someone else to read it over. Sometimes a second pair of eyes can see mistakes that you missed. Very sadly, we have so many dissertations with innumerable grammar and spelling mistakes. There may be people to argue that my topic is more important than my language, but no. When you get a BA degree, when you get an MA degree, it's clearly mentioned in your certificate that you get a degree or you are certified for getting a degree in language and literature. There's no literature without language, language without literature. So when you have a doctorate in a subject, your language also should be correct. We need not be excellent, but you should have basic research ethics to see that your dissertation is error-free. Now, many things can come in your way. Health problems, family troubles, psychological problems. Even if you are very good in English, there may be a mistake that creeps in. So it's always good to have friends. I have done proofreading for so many friends, and I have helped people make their thesis error-free. Free of cost. But now there's no harm. Suppose there is an MA graduate who is very good in English. You could even pay her. She would get some pocket money. So you could ask him or her to proofread the thesis for you and make it error-free. But there shouldn't be a single error. You must see that it is error-free. It's very sad that PhD dissertations, especially in English literature, come with grammatical errors. Such dissertations will never get highly commended. And not even commended. So even if a few errors, of course, one or two, that even that is not acceptable because a doctorate is a doctorate. So you have to see that it's perfect in every way. Recheck. So that's what we were talking about. A second pair of eyes is a must. You could always employ somebody to proofread your thesis. Next slide. Finale. Make the effort to ensure that your final paper is clean, tidy, neat, and attractive. I remember my professors were very good. I thank my professors who made me what I am today. Even my research writing, the ethics that follow, come from the UG times. When my professor wouldn't accept, she would clearly tell, please don't submit dissertation with dog's ears. Some people have the habit of just tearing a bit of the paper here and folding it like dog's ears. Very, very bad research ethics. Civilization in education is seen through presentation. So if you have to present even a simple research paper, even when you submit your chapters to your guide, you should see that it is in the best form. So you must see that it is clean, tidy, neat, and attractive. Aim to have your final paper ready a day or two before the deadline. Never go till midnight, 12, 11:59 to submit your research paper. It should be a day or two, ready a day or two earlier. Next slide. Thank you very much. I hope I have touched upon the most important parts of research writing, current trends. That is why I took MLA 9th edition, because matter you somehow prepare, but presentation is very poor nowadays. The foreign examiners would be very upset and disappointed if you give a thesis or a research paper that is poorly presented. So your argument may be good, your idea may be good, but if you have not cited properly, it ends up in plagiarism. Your argument may be wonderful, but if you have not presented it properly, they wouldn't understand your point at all. So bringing into a consideration how present research should move on, I would like to tell all the listeners today that don't take research very easy. Your instructor is there to help you out with what is right, because certainly she would have valued half a dozen or a dozen dissertations, and she knows where the mistakes will come. So always have a good rapport with your instructor. It's very sad when there is a conflict between you and your instructor. You see that you avoid such conflicts, and you see that you always have a good friendship with your instructor. I'm the best friend of all my wards. I'm always ready for them at any time. Sometimes now I started guiding long ago, around more than a decade now. So the MLA handbook will keep changing every time. So I try my best to update myself with the changes in the MLA handbook. But now edition MLA handbook 9 came only in 2021. So I had to quickly tell my students to quickly shift from 2020's MLA handbook to 21. So she may not be like me. I keep presenting, I keep reading, so I will be updated. But it is not necessary that all guides should by heart MLA 9th edition, because how many editions will they by heart? They would get confused. So you must see that when your instructor tells you, please run, but of course she can tell you, run up to MLA handbook, please look at this page, or please look at this and find out how the edition has to be cited. You must be ready. You must see that you have this book with you all the time and see that there are no errors. You can always pull in or bring in children who are really good in English to help you with proofreading. And you see, a second pair of eyes always go through your research. Don't have ego in you. Don't worry that somebody else may not like your paper. Let them not like your paper, but at least try. Now, even today, sometimes when I'm going to talk, I think I have completed 62 talks now in various national international seminars. But even now, I have a best friend with whom I will say, you see, I'm going to speak on cultural studies, and this time I'm going to speak on these 2 books. What do you feel? So in case something new props up, or she has read something different, she would immediately tell me, see, there's a new book on this. Why don't you go through that also? So when we join together, research becomes constructive. So I believe you will all have best friends, or you make friends, and let us carry research on together. And you always, in case you're not confident about your thoughts, give it to another person. You can also employ, there is unemployment everywhere. So you can also offer a nomination for a good proofreader and get your article or your thesis proofread so that your research is perfect. So thank you very much for your patient hearing. I thank SRM Institute of Science and Technology for bringing me into this international faculty development, curriculum development, research and publication ethics faculty development program. And I pray and believe that today's talk would have helped you do better research writing and present your research papers, articles, MPhil thesis, PhD dissertations error-free, perfect, so that they get selected at one go. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Professor Parker, you helped me without any hurdles. God bless you.
And thanks to Dr. Nagamani also, who was sharing the
Yes. Great thanks to
presentation.
Dr. Nagamani. She had to sit through in spite of conducting the program and, running around, managing
Ma'am,
things.
it was an extremely crisp, and if I may say so, in the words of one of the participants, a very melodious presentation because it was so clear and very, very insightful. There were so many valuable inputs, especially about the referencing style, the ninth edition. And we have a few questions which I would like to put to you, ma'am. The first question is just a general question on, since the title is Current Trends in Research,
Okay.
about a journal. So the participant is from Indonesia who's an editor of a journal. He would like to know how to make his journal fit in with the current trends in research.
Okay. Now, suppose you are editing a journal. Now, many of us have journals in our college. Our college also has a journal. It's very difficult to get international acclaim. Now, even when we teachers publish articles, we select for journals that are in Scopus or care listed. We call it care listed in India because UGC, which is our higher education, office, gives a list of journals which are up to the mark and which are valued. So we professors always try to publish only in care listed journals because only those presentations and those publications get marks for promotions or for accreditation of our institutions. But we colleges all have journals. All our journals are not listed under the care listed journals because of various reasons. So if you want your journal to be the best and to follow the current research trends, the first thing you should do is the quality of your journal. Never compromise on quality. Suppose, for example, my book is coming out this month. I'm co-editing a book along with my friend. It is on transnational feminism. So when we started collecting articles for our book, a lot of papers came in. And many of these papers were not connected with transnational feminism, though the papers were good. But we strictly stuck to our topic. We cannot simply accept papers because we need number of pages. So we stuck to only transnational feminism, third world feminism. Details, problems faced by third world women. That was the first criteria. Second, quality papers. You always see that the papers go through plagiarism test. You have Urkund, you have so many apps. You can check the papers by applying the papers to these apps and find out if there is plagiarism and or ask the contributor to give you the certificate. Or you can yourself check. So that is the next step. The third, the presentation, which we went through today for nearly more than an hour, following MLA Handbook 9. It shouldn't be compromised at all. If there is a citation, it should be cited properly in the reference section. There should be no grammatical errors. Your editors should see that from the title page, from the cover page. There are no mistakes ever, not a single mistake. And then apply for international standards. And if your journal gets selected, your journal will surely get uplifted. So
Thank
these
you,
are
ma'am.
you can begin with. Okay. Thank you for your question.
We have a few questions on citations, ma'am. This is the first one.
Radio program or a TV program. I had already mentioned it in one of my slides. It is just like you trying to get it from an app. You always cite the contributor's name. You must have seen the slides where I had showed container, container 1, container 2. That was for books online and printed books. Similarly, a TV program or a radio program will move on just like a program or song that you see on an app. You must just remember to give the producer's or the director's name and the name of the container, which is the program, what is the name, and on which is it being streamed. Is it on radio, is it on TV, or is it on YouTube? And just like you cite a YouTube program and the time span, when was it, when was the program, the date and the time given, just as you cite a YouTube program. If you look into MLA Handbook 9, you will understand clearly.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
The next question is on the screen by Swati Priya.
Yes. This is a commonly asked doubt. If we are citing from a translation work, which publisher do we need to cite? The real work publisher or the translation one? It depends on the importance of the translation. Now, which would you give importance to? The original book or the translator? It depends on the importance of the book. Suppose if the translator's version is more popular, you write the translator's name first, not the author's name. Author's name comes later. Isn't it just like that? Whichever is more important, that publisher's name comes first. It's clearly mentioned in MLA Handbook 9. Yes? Generally, when you publish, the question is the
Yes.
or I think there's a small mistake. An original research paper, should it be just 2 or 3 pages for
2 or 3
publication?
pages.
It depends. It cannot be just 2 or 3 pages. It's the word limit. A good research paper is always between 2,000 and 3,000 words. So that won't fit within 2 or 3 pages. It runs to 8 or 9 pages. Generally, a good journal always gives you the word limit, and generally the word limit is between 2,000 to 3,000 words. But when we ask student researchers to publish, we reduce the limit to 1,500. But still, 2,000 to 3,000 is the general word limit for a good research paper. The next question, please let me know if it is compulsory that the material of the chapter in synopsis should be similar in thesis. It depends on when you submit the synopsis. You have 2 synopsis submissions. One at the beginning when you start research for your coursework. That will be slightly different from your thesis because your thesis takes its own shape. By the time you finish your research, it will take 3-4 years. So the thesis synopsis you submit in the beginning may have slight changes, but the one you submit during pre-submission should have the same chapter division. Suppose you are working on Christopher Nolan's movies, 9 movies or 10 movies. His latest movie came out last year, 2020. So then how would you have divided his chapters? Suppose it's a psychological analysis of his characters. So suppose you have 5 chapters, based on 2 movies each chapter. Your final synopsis should have the same outline at least, if not the same, what do I say? Arguments. The outline should be the same and it should be over within 1 hour. Your presentation will be 1 hour, isn't it? Pre-submission. So it should have the same details. You can't go away from feminism to psychology. It can't be like that. It should be the same almost.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question is, how long should we spend time to prepare a paper or article till we are ready to submit it in a journal?
Yes, this is a subjective, opinion of mine. In the rat race for publication, everybody writes papers within 10 days or 20 days. But if you ask me, or if you ask all the senior professors who are in IIT or IIM or the big universities, you need at least 4 months to write a good paper for a good journal. Generally, 3 or 4 months. But then that doesn't happen because we have a rat race for publication. So, what I would suggest is you keep reading. If you're literature people, you'll keep reading and reading continuously. And you find that something is really useful, you jot it down and start writing papers. Writing should continue with reading. And when you find an appropriate platform to present it or publish it, you publish it. That is how it works. You can't wait. Anyway, there are going to be journals on all topics. So you can always select. You can write. 3 to 4 months is a must. But nowadays they write within 20 days.
Ma'am, we'll take one final question.
Yes, sir. These days we find more access to ebooks rather than hard copies. Will it be a problem when going for them at maximum in thesis? No, not at all. Because you can know very clearly that COVID-19 pandemic has thrown all of us online. None of us are meeting anybody. Otherwise, today I'll be in Chennai along with the SRM faculty members, but we're all sitting in front of gadgets. There's no harm in citing from ebooks. You can have as many citations from ebooks, but remember to cite them. There is no rule that you should have only so many printed books and so many ebooks. Not at all. You can have as many, but remember to cite them. And a good research dissertation or good thesis, I would say, as my guide told me, I did it in 2000. You should have read at least 300 to 320 books, and all those books should be cited. Only then you go through the research process. So you should have read it. It cannot be cut, copy, paste anymore because of plagiarism, and you have to first give your plagiarism certificate before your thesis is accepted. So that won't happen. But your work cited can clearly give me an idea about how much of books you have read and how much research you have done on your topic.
Thank you so much, ma'am. With that, we come to the end of the Q&A session. I would now like to request...
Thank you, Nagamani, ma'am, for helping me out.
Ma'am, it's rather my pleasure, ma'am.
Rama, ma'am, over to you for your kind comments, ma'am.
Yes. So Dr. Nila, if I should say, articulate, eloquent, coherent, and so neatly presented details. I think this entire thing was a boon for researchers, ma'am. Thank you so much, Dr. Nila. I understand today that even a highly theoretical subject like this can be made so interesting, basically because of your emphatic tone and your lovely cascading presentation. Thanks a lot, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, so much. I was worried it may be boring.
No.
But researchers should know, so I touched upon that. Thank you so much.
Your tonal quality, nobody can call it boring at all. Very nice.
Exactly.
Like Walter said, melodious. So I think you should not worry.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Ma'am, shall we move on to the formal vote of thanks?
Yeah, sure.
I would like to now request my colleague, Dr. Nagamani, to present the vote of thanks. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Walter. Speechless we are, I think. Good evening, all of you. It is again a great honor for me to be a part of this great academic venture. With humility and immense gratitude, I bow before God Almighty for His gracious blessings. It is hard finding words to express my earnest appreciation and gratitude to our resource person today for having accepted our invite and made it a great enlightening evening. She is in truth a very resourceful person who has highlighted the most crucial, complicated domain of a research process, that is methodology. Thank you so much, ma'am. You have spotlighted the recent trends in both research writing and methodology with perfect examples. It is like taking up a complete course on methodology. I'm sure the participants would have had a fruitful takeaway to be implemented. It was like having a full meal, wholesome meal, right from starter to a dessert. No point was left out untouched by you. Thank you so much, ma'am. At this juncture, I deem it my duty to acknowledge the never failing encouragement bestowed by our beloved professor and head, Dr. Rema. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being with us in all our ventures. All these wouldn't have been made possible but for the untiring efforts of the organizers of this 1 week FTP, Dr. Savitha and Dr. Walter Hugh Parker, who have always given their best for the department. Let me express my warm appreciation for the coordination rendered by my colleague, Pritha Basu, who is extremely friendly and makes the work so smooth. Let me appreciate all the faculty from our department and all the participants from other institutions who have joined us today. I think they have benefited a lot with the immense knowledge being shared by the resource person today. Thank you once again. Thank you one and all. Stay safe, stay home. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so
ma'am.
much.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Beyond
Thank
words,
you.
it was actually. From
Nothing
beginning
much.
till the end, no word wrongly placed and
Maybe
such a
all of
nice.
you are researchers.
No, if we see the YouTube, no, it is flooded with the appreciation of
Is it? My
the
God.
participants.
Yes.
Really,
Yes.
they are actually very much
I was
impressed.
just helping you out. I was just helping researchers. Not at all great, but just doing my job. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, ma'am. It is our pleasure and it is our honor, I think, to have you with us. I think we should thank Savitha, ma'am, for bringing you here in this
Yes.
forum. Thank you so
Happy
much,
Yes.
ma'am.
to
It is really a very great session. Great session.
maybe after COVID we'll meet.
Definitely,
Yeah,
ma'am.
sure.
Sure,
We
ma'am.
should.
Sure,
We'll be
definitely.
inviting you. Yes, ma'am.
Walter will take care of
Thank you.
hospitality, ma'am. You need not worry.
We all will be there, ma'am. Definitely, we all will be there.
No, Professor Walker is such a accommodative person. I had problems with
Thank
my
you. Thank you,
laptop.
Ma'am,
ma'am.
he is the asset of our department,
I
ma'am.
know. I can understand from the way you're communicating. It's a happy department. We see
Definitely.
Thank,
English departments are not so happy as your department is.
thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much,
so
ma'am.
much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank you.
ma'am. Thank
There
you.
will be, are we on? Are we going live?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
No, ma'am.
We are still live, but we
Actually,
can.
we ask the participants to unmute themselves and speak. No, they will be flooding you with so much of
I
appreciation
know.
because
I
they are
know.
very eager. We could see the messages. It is full
Okay.
of life.
Publications, no, maybe
Yes.
that's why they're interested. Generally,
Very
English
clear.
departments are very huge 24 people, 25 people in a department. So it's very difficult to have a good rapport with all. It's like an MA classroom.
yeah.
That's why English
Exactly.
departments you can't see, people gifting each other. You have to buy 25 gifts. But other departments
Exactly.
are so close because four. Now if you take zoology, botany, 5 people, 10 people. It's easy to have contact with everybody. But language departments, it's not possible. But your department seems to be very happy. I think you keep each other.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
Thank
Thank
you
ma'am.
you,
so
Thank
much,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank you,
so
ma'am.
much.
You made it a great day, ma'am. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Shall we leave the studio, ma'am?
you. Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Walter.
Thank you, ma'am. See you tomorrow, ma'am.
Yeah.